Now, Dan Nelson, President and CEO of Nelson Schmidt Incorporated, will introduce our speaker.
Thank you, President Todd, and I will try and have the same passion that Caitlin does. As one of the volunteer producers of the Maritime Committee of Live at Lakefront, it is truly my honor today to introduce today's very special guest, Bob Babisch, Vice President of Entertainment at Milwaukee World Festival, Inc. A 46-year veteran of Milwaukee World Festival, Bob is one of the entertainment industry's most respected leaders. There are truly only a handful of people in the business who have had similar staying power, particularly the bands. Bob's career at Summerfest began in 1976 when the festival was just beginning to book major national artists. Fast forward to today, and it does not get any bigger than the artists that have played Summerfest during Bob's tenure. The Rolling Stones, Paul McCartney, Prince, Tom Petty, The Grateful Dead, Whitney Houston, Jimmy Buffett, Dave Matthews Band, Steve Wonder, Metallica. Shout out your favorite band you've ever seen at Summerfest. So there you go, Foo Fighters. I mean, there's just, the list literally goes on and on. As you might imagine, Bob manages an entertainment budget in the tens of millions of dollars for Summerfest each year. He also leads the music production team and oversees the music for all events held throughout the season at Henry Meyer Festival Grounds, in the BMO Harris Pavilion, and at the American Family Insurance Amphitheater. Bob is totally committed to Milwaukee World Festival's mission, maintaining Summerfest as the people's festival. Under Bob's leadership, the entertainment department has always strived to offer the best lineup at the lowest possible cost. And to Bob, best means the most diverse, representing all genres of music and including emerging artists, festival favorites, and the world's most popular headliners. That diversity has been a differentiator for Summerfest, and Bob would argue its broad appeal and longevity can be attributed to that strategy. Bob also books events for the Milwaukee Admirals and at various venues in and out of Wisconsin, including OC Bike Fest in Ocean City, Maryland. He has close working relationships with all major talent agencies and management firms and has been a featured speaker at some of the music industry's biggest events. He's on the International Entertainment Buyers Association Board of Directors, serving as president in 2019, and is also a past recipient of the IEBA Festival Buyer of the Year. Bob is a proud graduate of UWM and lives in Glendale with his wife and 2 children. Please join me in welcoming Bob Babisch to Rotary Club of Milwaukee.
Hi, thank you so much. How's everybody doing today? Well, good. I thought we'd talk for 15, 20 minutes, give a little history of the festival, tell you some stories, have a little fun, and then open it up to questions for anybody out there who wants to talk about it. Everything's wide open. We won't hold back on anything. I saw Mike White was here earlier. Where's Mike White? Huh? He's not, oh, the wrong Mike White. That's not the guy who was on our board of directors. Never mind that. And John Bowler over here, who worked with us for years at Summerfest. Unknown fact to you is he's a fantastic guitar player. And we had a little band at Summerfest called Crooked Smile. And John started that band, so it's great seeing you here today. So that's kind of fun. So I am going to get this thing started. I believe we have a video to open it all up. have, I would say, the opportunity to do what I consider the greatest music festival in the world on the lakefront of Milwaukee. And it's a beautiful event, and we continue the tradition. It started in 1968, and it was started in Milwaukee. There were some problems going on in the city at that time, and the mayor at the time, Henry Meyer, was over in Europe, and he was there for Oktoberfest. And he saw all the people getting together and having a good time and having a party, and he said, why can't we do that in our city? Why can't we create something in the city of Milwaukee that's everybody wants to come to, that's terribly inexpensive, and they can all have a good time and come together in harmony? And that's the way it started. And it started in the city, in all the parks, all over the place. And they realized it would work better if they could put it in one spot. So they brought it to the lakefront in 1970. And if you look at that top picture up there, there was a Nike missile site that they took over. And you can see on the southern part of it, you can see where this place is built now. You can see where the art museum is. You can see where the children's event is. You can see way down at the other end, that flat piece of space that's on the far north end of that picture. That's where the amphitheater is now. And we'll talk about the amphitheater as we get a little closer into that time period. But it started on the grounds, and we couldn't have done it at that time. They went to the 3 breweries, and they said, we really need your help. We want to create an event in Milwaukee for everybody. So they built it on the site down here. We didn't have any, most of it was ethnic dance companies and ethnic dance troupes. So they didn't have a lot of music, not a lot of rock and roll going at that time. But that really started to change as we got to the grounds. Now it's 9 days, 12 stages, 800 artists, 1,000 performances. And we attract fans from all over the world. And that's really what makes it exciting for us. We see people from all over the world every year when we're doing the event. It's fantastic. 75 acres, world-class permanent lake land. We, through the years, have rebuilt it and rebuilt it and rebuilt it to create the magic that you have now. When I started there in 1976, it was basically all temporary structures. The stages were just platforms on cement blocks. You didn't have any roofs, and it was really tough to deal with when it rained. When it rained, it got muddy. You threw some straw down, and the sun came out and heated it all up, and it was a mess. But through the years, we created the magic that we have down there right now. You have a wide variety of food and beverage on the grounds. A lot of local vendors come in and open the spaces. We're careful about how much they charge because we want to make sure that everybody gets the best deal. A lot of local vendors doing marketplace. It's a great place to visit on the grounds. And we have been recognized as the world's largest music festival by the Guinness Book of World Records. Oh, there it is. We have to have community-wide support. It's what works for us here because we want to be a part of the fabric of southeastern Wisconsin and the state in general. When you look at what goes on at Summerfest, people in the city of Milwaukee feel that it's their festival. When we announce a lineup, we're announcing a lineup for their festival. We're not another organization that's going to come in, do an event, and leave. We're here all the time. And you see it in not just Summerfest, but you see it in the ethnic festivals we do. And you see it in all the events we try to do on the Summerfest grounds, try to make it an event for everybody. So 93% of the attendees and 85% of non-attendees agree that we are a fabric of the culture and the community of Wisconsin and Milwaukee. And that means so much to us. 90% of attendees and 82% agree or strongly agree that Summerfest is the best event in the city of Milwaukee, the most best known event. And 90% of attendees agree or strongly agree that we are a tradition that they value, a festival for the people. So we love this event. We want to keep going forward with the event. As you can see, we've moved a little bit in the national world. We've gotten some national press through the years. We couldn't be happier to see that happen. And for a long time, when you would call an agent and say, I want to book one of your bands, they would say, well, you've got this fair. And we go, we're not a fair. We're a festival. We're a music festival in downtown Milwaukee. You don't have to go outside of town 50 miles to see anything. It is right there in the heart of Milwaukee. And through the years, we've managed to get some more of the accolades for the city of Milwaukee and for this festival. And as you can see on these charts that are up there, you can see all the impressions that we've gotten from bands from places like Rolling Stone, Billboard Magazine, Chicago Tribune, Forbes. You know, that is important to us. It shows that we're breaking through. And when you do that, when people on a national scale start talking about your event, then you start getting more of these big bands that you are always trying to get for this event. You want the Rolling Stones, and you want the McCartneys, and you want the Princes, and you want all those artists. A quick story. I'll tell you a quick story how Prince and the Rolling Stones and McCartney are all connected, right? So years ago, we wanted to do a Prince date at Summerfest. So we had no idea where to find him because he didn't have an agent, he didn't have a manager. He was Prince, which is kind of the way he is. And we knew that he was going to have a birthday party in his home up in Paisley Park in Minneapolis. So we started calling and we started badgering Paisley Park every 3 days for like a month. And we'd make call after call after call after call. And finally, I think they got sick of us, and the switchboard sent us to a marketing person. And the marketing, we explained to the marketing person, we see that you're having a party with Prince. We'd love to have Prince play in the amphitheater we have on the grounds. He said, yeah, I'll check into it, and hung up, and we figured, yeah, right, that's not going to happen. We'll call again in 3 days and try it. But like a day or two later, we get a call going, okay, this works. This is how much money we want. We said, okay, so we have a Prince date, just like that out of nowhere, right? So he comes and he plays the amphitheater, and he has a really, really good time. A couple years later, he's on a tour with a company called AEG, a national promoting company, and they're doing Prince for the whole tour, and he plays Milwaukee. And again, he comes here, and he has a really good time. Well, years later, it turns out that AEG is promoting the Rolling Stones on a national tour, and it's all football stadiums. But they remember they want to do one date on the Stones tour where they're going to have fun in a smaller place other than a football stadium. So they remember how much fun Prince had here. And one of the things about our building, it's 23,000 seats. It's still there with remodeled amphitheater, and we can talk about that. But it's 23,000 seats. When you stand on stage, it feels like there's only 10,000 people in a room because it ramps up real fast. I mean, it rakes up real fast. So people feel like they're sitting right on top of the artist. The artist feels like people are sitting right on top of them. And that's a very cool feeling that you get as an artist. So anyway, we put a Rolling Stones date together, the only one that summer that is in a non-football stadium. And the Rolling Stones have a great time. And they're the greatest guys, the easiest guys to work with in the world. The band got there in the morning with their crew. A lot of times, bands show up at the last minute, fly in, get a limo, come do the show, leave. That's the way it usually is. The Stones came in on buses with their crew, hung out all day, and they made a day of it. And then when they left, they got on with their crew to drive away. The fun thing, the show they're 70 years old, right? These are old guys, right? And I'm sorry, I'm 70. I'm 70, so I can say it's old. They go on stage, and they are rocking for 2 hours and 45 minutes. I mean, Mick Jagger is just rocking and smoking. They're all fantastic. And they all come up the stage at the end of the show, and I'm waiting for them to go out to get back on the bus as they're leaving. And now they all have these little robes on and little cups of tea in their mouth. Swear to God. They can only work like every 10 days, but they can still rock. It's amazing. Getting back to my story. Okay, so now we did the Stones. Now McCartney 2 years later is going to tour, and we're pushing to try to get a McCartney date. McCartney's people call up the Stones people and say, what's that building like? And they say, the building's fantastic, the people are fantastic, the promoters are great, you got to come do the show. And that's how we got McCartney. So Prince got us, the Stones got us McCartney. Relationships, right? And that's important in our business. And while I'm at it, if I have time, I'll tell another Prince story. What the heck? So Prince, he's there, and we want to put him on our wall of fame, right? So we start the process about 2 weeks out. We say, you're going to be in town. Can we put you on the wall of fame? And they say, fine. He'll do the wall of fame. I say, great. We'll make a plaque. It'll have his logo on, the Prince, the logo that he's got. Not his name, but it's a logo. And we'll put it up on a stand. And before the show, we'll all pose around it. And it'll be great. So they tell us, okay, he's going to do this. The day of the show, have it set up in such and such a spot. We'll make this work. It's going to be fantastic. So our rack is up there. The plaque is up there. There's a cover on the plaque. Our new CEO, Don Smiley, it's his first year there. And I go, hey, you want to see this whole thing with Prince? It's going to be pretty cool. He goes, yeah. So he comes up there too. Our photographers are up there. About hour before the show, half hour before the show, something like that. His publicist is up there in the room. She leaves. Their photographer, his personal photographer's up there, sets up all the stuff. So it's 45 minutes before showtime. No, it's an hour before showtime. That's what it was scheduled for. We're all standing there waiting because he's supposed to come in and get the picture taken. And an hour before, the publicist comes back and says, you're going to have to wait a little bit because he's talking to international press. It's going to be a while. We go, okay. 20 minutes go by. Comes back. You're going to have to wait a little longer. He's decided he's going to put on his costume and his makeup first, and then we'll do this. We go, okay. Half hour later, she comes back. He's going to change costumes. It's going to be a little longer. Oh, okay. So now an hour and 20 minutes, whatever it is passed by now. Finally, the door swings open. In comes Prince. He's about so big. And comes charging in. And I start this whole thing. I go, Prince, we want to honor you with this Wall of Fame plaque. And we want to do this because all you've meant to Summerfest. And he stops and goes, you know, just you showing your appreciation is good enough for me. I'd rather not do this. Thank you. And turns around and walks out. So his publicist goes, walks out. The photographer goes, walks out. And we're all kind of standing there going, and Smiley says, does this happen very often? And I said, in this business, it happens all the time. Anyway, I digress. So we love the fact that we're getting national promotion out there. It's great for us. So if you look at the top, that's what the very, very first main stage looked like in 1970 when we did it on the grounds. And looks like it's about to fall down, but it stayed up as best it could, and it got changed. And I'll show you a picture that got changed right after that. At the bottom, you can see where the amphitheater went after that. You know, I should say one quick thing about the amphitheater. If you looked at the first picture with that flat space that was on the lakefront and said we built the amphitheater there, well, we had to build a berm because you have to get, you know, a raked stage, a rake that was going on, and they had to get rid of all the spill in the city. So for a whole winter, we got paid to have dump truck after dump truck after dump truck come in and seating where it is now. So it's kind of a fun story. Let's see. I'm going to change directions, I think, as we go here. I'll talk about it on my own here. So what do we have here? What does it say? Park improvements. So as you look at the Summerfest grounds, you can see what we've done through the years. We spent millions and millions of dollars improving the Summerfest site. And that is one of the reasons why people love to come to our place. You can come to Summerfest. It might rain for a couple hours, but it dries out. But you can see the American Family Insurance Amphitheater is there, and the BMO Harris Pavilion, and all the other sponsored venues that we have on the grounds. And we would not have these venues if it wasn't for the sponsors in this city. And we also wouldn't have a $25 ticket if it wasn't for the sponsors in this city. That's what keeps the event going. And we couldn't be happier with how the community has always been on our side to do our event. Here's some of the acts that have played through the years. I got some more stories. A couple more here, and then we'll have to do a question thing. Tom Petty and Pearl Jam, right? So they were playing here together. It was one of the few dates that they were doing together. And Eddie Vedder from Pearl Jam always likes to walk around on the grounds. He puts on a baseball hat and wanders around to see people. Well, at the time, we had a band that would play Summerfest every year called Lightning and Thunder. And Lightning and Thunder were a Patsy Cline, Neil Diamond clone thing. And the guy was brilliant. He thought he was Neil Diamond, and he would do the show. Eddie's walking the grounds, decides Neil Diamond should open for Pearl Jam. So they come to me and they go, you got to get this guy. He's going to open for Pearl Jam tonight. So we call him up and we say, you got a second? You want to come up and visit? And he says, yeah. And he comes up. My assistant Scott's got him down there. And we go, here's what's going to happen. You're going to open tonight for Pearl Jam. And he has no idea who Pearl Jam is, right? And these are sold out shows. And we say, you're going to open tonight for Pearl Jam. He goes, I don't know. And it's in the amphitheater. I say, you're going to be in the amphitheater. You're going to do like 3 or 4 songs. And he goes, I don't know. And we said, no, you don't understand. You are going to open for Pearl Jam tonight, right? He said, yeah, okay, I'll do it. So he brings his guitar. He's got his gold lame sport coat on. He brings it, he gets backstage, and it's about a half an hour before the show starts. And we open up the curtain a little bit, and he looks out at 23,000 people and goes, "Oh, I can't do this. No. And he starts to walk away going, no, you're going to do this. And he goes, no, I can't. There's no way I can do this. I can't. We finally convince him. We get his guitar strapped on, and we ship him out there. And the crowd goes wild. And he does like a couple of songs. And who comes out of the wings? Eddie Vedder. So Eddie Vedder comes out with this guy, and they sing Sweet Caroline together. And the place is off the charts. I mean, people are jumping, screaming, and hollering. He gets done, he comes off, he's feeling great, he packs up his stuff and he leaves. And Eddie's guys, our Pearl Jam's guys, say to us, they want him to open again tomorrow. So we call him up and we say, Mike, they want you to open again tomorrow. And he thinks for a bit and he goes, okay, I need 10 comp tickets, I need a deli tray, I need 2 dressing. And he said, just show up tomorrow, everything's going to be all right. I love that one. Oh, there's Prince. We could tell that again, but now we won't. Aretha Franklin story. So when we did Aretha Franklin the last time, she got a deposit for her money, then X amount of money in a check and X amount of money in cash. And it's a substantial amount of money in cash. As we're getting ready in the afternoon to settle the show and how we're going to do it, her production guy or tour manager, one of the two, says to me, you'll be settling with Aretha tonight. I went, yeah, sure. He goes, no, you'll be settling with Aretha tonight. So I take my bag of cash and my check, and I go up and I knock on the door, and the security guy that's about 6'8" answers the door, and he lets me in and sits me down next to this table, and he leaves and stands outside the door, and out comes Aretha in her outfit. She's getting ready to do the show. She sits down. I open up the bag and I stack up the $100 bills, and she starts counting. And she's making small talk. Good crowd out there tonight, huh? Don't you think? I think we're going to have a good show tonight. Well, she's counting hundreds. Stacks them all up, takes them all, puts them in this big bag that she's got. I leave. The security guys goes back in. Show's about to start. They come walking out. She's still got her bag of cash. She's walking out on stage with her bag of cash. Security guy is right behind her. She hands the money to the security guy. He goes and stands off on the side of the stage, does the show, comes back, gets her money, walks away. Okay. A couple months later, I get a call from the agent. And he says, Bob, do you remember that check that you gave besides the cash to Aretha? I said, yeah. He said, if I send it back to you, can you send me a new one? Because it's expiring. I said, sure, but I don't understand. He goes, well, she was cleaning out her purse yesterday. Crumpled in the bottom of her purse was a $60,000 check. Gotta love it. Anyway, I think I'm coming to an end here. And here's some more artists. We could probably tell a couple more stories. Billie Eilish, a real quick story about Billie Eilish. So Billie Eilish right now is one of the biggest pop acts in the world, right? We did her first public, large show that she had ever done as a headliner. And the reason it worked is my assistant Scott and I were doing some research, and we thought this would be an artist to put in. I think, we need to fill a date. We think she's going to be big. We're not sure yet. She had an album coming out in a couple of weeks, and we chased it, and we chased it, and we chased it. And the money got bigger, and the money got bigger, because she really didn't want to do it. And bigger and bigger. And finally, they said to us, if you give us X, we'll do the date. And I said to Scott, this is crazy. We can't do this. We can't take this kind of risk. He said, Bob, we're going to be right on this one. We're taking a chance. And on a Sunday, he talked me into doing it. No, on a Thursday, he talked me into saying, okay, we'll do the date. So we said, okay, we'll do the date. On Friday, her new album came out. And by Saturday morning, it was #1 in the world. So we nailed that one perfectly. We put it on sale a week later, sold out in a half hour. And while she was there at the show, she told a story from the stage that she was sitting up in a corner in one of the dressing rooms, looking out and sitting there with her grandma. And she looked out and suddenly realized that all those people flocking into that building. We're there to see her. And I said, now that's a cool moment. That's a cool moment for an entertainer to do that. So since then, she's blown up and she's become a big star. We'll probably never get her again. But at the moment, it was as good as it gets. So there you are. So I'm going to take a few questions from people. And there you have. There's the lineup that we have for this year at Summerfest. People, please come out. We left 2 tickets for everybody who wanted to come to our little party, and can't thank you enough. This was fun. Thanks. And questions?
Yes, Bob, you have name dropped some really big names. McCartney, Jones. Who's the one you haven't signed?
I can't say. There's a few. There's a few, and I've made offers on one artist for 12 straight years. Still don't have it. Still hoping. I'm going to be a consultant next year. Maybe they'll play next year. They're not playing this year. So, yep.
So all of the performers that you've met over the years, you have preconceived notions, I would guess, is what people's personalities are like. Who surprised you the most? And there's probably a number of them, but when you met them and what you thought they were like and why?
Well, first of all, we don't meet many of the artists. We want to meet the tour managers, the tour accountants, the band's managers, the agents, all the people that can help us get another date. And we want to do a good job so that artist wants to come back, and that manager might manage 4 or 5 bands. He wants his other artists to come back. We always want to try to do that. We meet a handful of artists, at any given year. Sometimes we have guys that are old friends that we've seen in the past, and we'll go visit with them and say hello. But a lot of times, like the tour managers, there's a guy that's named Marty Hom, who's the tour manager to the Divas. If there's a diva coming out on tour, Marty Hom's got it, because Marty Hom is the best in the world at handling the divas. And I met Marty Hom. Are we running out of time? Okay, I'm going to tell another story. I met Marty Hom years ago when he was working for Paula Abdul. And I had this package called the MTV Tour, and it was Milli Vanilli, Tone Loc, and Paula Abdul. Now, I'll cut to the first moment. This is like about 4 or 5 days before the show, and I get a call from an agent who's the agent for Paula Abdul, and says, "Is it okay if Paula doesn't show up?" I said, no, that's not okay. What do you mean when Paula doesn't show up? He said, well, we have a problem. I said, what's the problem? He said, well, she doesn't really perform live. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, she's a dancer, so she doesn't sing much. I said, no, she's going to do the show. Anyway, so now Marty Hom is her tour manager. So we have Milli Vanilli, Tone Loc, and Paula Abdul. First of all, Tone Loc's one of the opening acts. If you ever saw the movie Spinal Tap, did anybody ever see the movie Spinal Tap? There's a scene where this guy is locked in a wine bottle and he can't get out. He wants to sing. That actually happened. That's where that's from. During that show at our place, Tone Loc, Funky Cold Medina, I think the song was, and he was supposed to open up a giant wine bottle and pop out and do the show. Well, the stagehands by accident had put cables across the bottom of the thing. So he starts to do the show, and pulling part of the stagehands have to run off and pull all this stuff off so we can do it. Now, he gets done with that. Now we got Milli Vanilli, and we all know about Milli Vanilli, right? These guys don't sing it. But we don't know it at the time. We've just heard. So the show starts. Bass player dances across the stage, playing the bass, doing a couple 360 things. Guitar player comes across. This is all on DAT tape. They're not playing live. Guitar player comes across, does the whole thing. One other guy comes across. Millie, Fab, and Roy, or whatever the names are, start on each side of the stage, slap their hands up in the middle of the air, turn around, wiggle their butts, turn around and sing, and the DAT tape breaks right down. And everything stops. And everybody looks at everybody on stage, and they leave off in a hissy fit. They fire the sound man on the spot. They run off to the bus, and they get on the bus, and they go, we're not coming out. And they're all the production people are banging on doors going, guys, we got a big crowd here. We're not coming out. So this goes on forever, right? And finally, they convince them to come out. They put a new DAT tape on. Bass player comes out, does his thing, dances around. Guitar player comes out, does his thing. These two guys come out, wiggle their butts, shake their hands, whatever, turn around, and the show starts. Don't miss a beat, and the crowd's going wild. And I look at the stage manager, and I go, what the hell was that? And he said, we just wind them up and send them out there. That's how the show goes. But while that was going on, Paula Abdul was sitting up in the corner with Marty Hom and looking down through the curtain and at all that. And she goes, "Can this happen to me?" And he said, "Yep." So that was my story. So Marty Hom has always been a guy who takes care of the divas. And to this day, getting back to we meet many artists, to this day, Marty Hom comes through the market every couple of years and we get to visit and talk about the past and tell stories. As far as artists that I thought were really not what I thought they were going to be, Mick Jagger was great. I mean, Mick, I got to spend some time visiting with him, and because he sits there and in every town he writes like little jokes, insider jokes about what happens in the city and people in the city and all that kind of stuff. And he needed somebody to make sure that he was telling true stories or something, and I was the guy for that show, so that was kind of fun. Yep.
I have a couple of questions that have come in on my text stream from Tom Anger. Who is your all-time favorite group?
All-time favorite artist?
Artist, performer.
Tom Petty. Tom Petty was my all-time favorite artist. He played there 16 times, I think. And to the point of when Tom would tour, rather than us going fishing, the manager would call up and say, "Tom's going out this summer. Do you want an anchor date?" And they would take our date and route around us because he liked playing it. Business was great. One of those things.
And what's on your playlist?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I lately have been listening to older acoustic jazz vinyl. I've been listening to a lot of Bill Evans, Live at the Vanguard. I've been listening to a bunch of the old stuff, Oscar Peterson, stuff like that. I've been going through that phase. Other than that, I like a lot of singer-songwriters. When I'm not doing that, I'll branch off into some of the old rock stuff. I like, every now and then I'll listen to Led Zeppelin. Sometimes listen to what my kids are listening to. But the interesting part of that in this world now with all the social, kids aren't locked into one format anymore. They just kind of listen to everything. I remember when my son was 16, he'd be listening to Led Zeppelin one day and listening to EDM music the next day and listening to old school R&B. So everybody can that melting pot. So I try to do the same thing. It all depends what my mood is that month.
First, I have to say thank you for all the years. I can't
remember
how many shows that I've been to there, so a lot of fun.
But you remember them? That's important.
Yes, I do. Part of being there is you got to be able to remember it. So, when you've got some of the artists that come in, especially you talked about some of the new ones through the years, way back, Bare Naked Ladies came. I was not at the Imagine Dragons show, but a few others that I know that were there, where it turns into, wrong stage or whatever. How do you deal with that, and how do you planning for the next time?
Well, the Imagine Dragons is one of those situations when they were first booked, they were booked on the rock stage, and then the crowd got bigger and they moved to another stage, and we were following how they were selling, and it got bigger and bigger and bigger as it went by. And then we went to the Miller stage and we couldn't put it in the amphitheater because that was already booked and on sale. So that was the biggest space we had. And that was an unusual case for us to have an audience that big. When we worry about overcrowding in front of a stage, one of the things we do, and people complain about it all the time, is we have bleachers. We have picnic tables and we have bleachers. And one of the important pieces of the bleachers are you can't push forward. You're standing in bleachers, you're standing between bleachers. It kind of breaks up the audience a little bit. And then the picnic tables in the back break up the audience even more. So that's what we're always trying to do, that, be cognizant of the fact about size of the crowds. Yes, sir.
Bob, over the years, what are some of the more unusual requests you've had for red M&Ms, massage therapist, vegan food?
Well, that was John Bowler. He wanted the massage therapist, but that's no. I mean, in the old days, we'll go back with the old days. When you did a rider, you had a contract, a 2-page contract, basically. But then the rider were the requirements that the artists want backstage. And you hear the stories about no brown M&Ms, 5 pounds of M&Ms, no brown M&Ms. And that was Van Halen, right? But the reason they did that was because they did a couple of shows and realized people were not reading the rider. They'd get to a venue and they'd say, "This is not the sound system we wanted." And they'd say, "Oh, sorry, man, I didn't see it." So they realized people weren't reading the rider, so they started putting outlandish things in the rider, knowing that if they took care of that, they must have been reading the rider, right? So that one of the things was, I need 10 pounds of M&Ms and get rid of all the brown ones or something like that. And some promoters would write across it and scratch it off, and some promoters would have fun with it. They would take the brown M&Ms and make a sculpture of the logo of the band or something like that. They would do things like that. In the old days, if you were not a classic rock, but like a country rock, Marshall Tucker's and all that, when it was at its heyday, they would ask for a case of Jack Daniels, you know? And now I bet you we don't give out a case of Jack Daniels in the entire festival, right? Because in this day now, it's macrobiotic meals and it's real silverware and it's real china and taking care of a lot of seafood, a lot of fish to keep your crew and your band healthy, because you have 75 people on your tour sometimes, 60, 75 people, and you got to have them healthy, especially the band and especially important members of the crew. Because if you have to start canceling dates and you have to put 75 people in a hotel for 4 days while people start getting better, then you have a problem with the cost. And you know, you see what goes on now with COVID, right? I mean, you see bands that are out. I can't tell you the number of bands last year that would be on the road. Somebody in the band would get COVID. They'd have to pull down for 10 days and they would cancel like $4 million worth of dates because somebody got COVID. So the backstage rules for bands like that got real stringent. I mean, not only did you have to show you were vaccinated, you had to prove it every morning. Everybody who worked last year at Summerfest that had amphitheater shows got tested every single morning. Anybody who walked backstage, band, crew, stagehands, everybody involved in the show had to be tested because you don't want people to get sick. So, I mean, but in the old days, you would get 6 pages of wine lists, you know, and pick 2 bottles from each one of the pages. Elton John was famous for his wine lists. It was great. But it's changed. It's changed dramatically.
So with all the different festivals that are going on, Coachella, obviously, big one, lots of big festivals, what has given Summerfest its staying power? In a city like Milwaukee,
I think,
getting that worldwide perspective.
I think, and you're starting to see them change. When you look at the Coachellas and the Bonnaroos and the Lollapaloozas and a myriad of other events that are going on around the country, they kind of lock themselves in a format. You know, it might be a demo early on, especially those festivals. The demo was always having jam bands or indie bands playing, and they wouldn't deviate from that very much. Summerfest has everything. You can go to Summerfest, and we pride ourselves in that. Our entertainment department really sits down 2 or 3 days a week, and we have a big grid, and we want to try to hit every genre every day. So somebody who walks into Summerfest can have a country show over here, a pop show over here, a hip hop show over here, you know, every genre, and you can walk around and you may see a band or a style of music that you didn't know you liked. You may check it out and go, I kind of like that kind of stuff. I should listen to more of this sort of thing. So that's always been our thing, is being a festival for everybody. And sometimes those other ones lock themselves into those formats, but you're starting to see that change for them also. I mean, you start seeing Lollapalooza last year doing Journey as one of their headliners, right? So they're starting to branch out.
Quick follow-up question. Yep. Do you think that the format that you're going to now with like this weekend style over a period of time, do you think that's going to be what stays, at least for the short term?
Well, one of the reasons, I mean, last year in September was a bad barometer on it. We'll see how that goes for this summer. But one of the things that works for our entertainment staff is now you've gone from a kind of a 2-week window to a 3-week booking window. So you can pick off some bands now that were not going to be in your market at the time, or were in Europe at the beginning, but aren't in Europe when your last weekend is. It gives the grounds a chance to recharge because you've got a couple of days off in between. It's a challenge in that now you have to tell employees that there's a couple of days off in the middle of it for 2 weekends, you know, so that's a little more of a challenge. But we think it's going to work. You know, you fish where the fish are, and people really want to go out on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday more than Tuesday and Wednesday. Hey.
The wrong Mike White.
My fault.
Hey, you said the story before with Billie Eilish, and she's getting too big now. I just look up and I see like Justin Bieber. I'm always curious. I know it varies with the artist, but what would be the approximate cost to bring in a big blue chipper or a big main stage?
Well, you can put it. You can look at a main stage artist like you can look at a stadium show. They're kind of the same. And when you get done, the difference is when you put a stadium show together, you have to provide a stage and major production, it's going to cost you $1 million just for your production. When you look at a show in our amphitheater, you have a stage already there, so you can cut back your production costs. But if you look at a show that's a major show out there that's getting $200, $300 a ticket for the P1s or the best couple thousand tickets in the building, and you realize how many people are coming to that, 23,000 usually for an act that can command that kind of ticket price, and you realize that the band walks out with 90 to 95% of the gross at the end of it. You can see where those numbers go. I mean, they can go all the way to $4 million for an artist to play. And it's pretty amazing when you offer people that kind of crazy money and they say no. It's just like, you just kind of go home and go, what? They said no? And it happens. It happens all the time when you're throwing ridiculous amounts of money, knowing that they're going to get that in any market they're going to play. So, and they're going to do 30 or 40 markets, and they're going to get that same kind of money anywhere. Then they're going to pick and choose what those markets are. They may say, I'll go sit in Chicago, play Soldier Field for 3 days, and not go anywhere else. And just, people want to see me, they can come to Chicago and go to Soldier Field. So that's always a battle. We have two major battles when it comes to doing big shows at Summerfest. It's that, and during our time periods, really starts the European festivals. The first big one outside of England is like the first weekend of Summerfest. And a lot of acts, if they go over to Europe to do that show, to do that festival, they're going to stay for a couple of months, so you lose those artists. So every year, half the people you want aren't even going to be in the country. Why, thank you.